Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Deltana. This is their part number PB985. This is a pivot hinge base, and what this is used for is installing a PH60 down into the floor in such a way where you do not have the entire bottom arm or bottom section or floor section of the pivot assembly that you would need to contend and get installed onto the floor. I have a PH60 here with me, and to illustrate, I guess what I just said was, this is your bottom portion and your door will come up here. Your door will swing out this way. Now, if you could not or did not want to have this bottom leaf on the floor for whatever reason, you could simply drill this hole, set the pivot base down, and you'd be able to rest that bottom pivot base there. Okay. Now your top installation, we're assuming that you're going to use the full 2-leaf knife assembly. The question that I have is, I've received is, can you install this into, use it as a header piece? I suppose where there's a will, there's a way. Okay. I'd have to think about how. So installing this up into the header, there's no vertical load on this at all. It's only lateral. This is just going to keep the unit from moving. The short answer is no. It cannot be used in the header. Could you somehow source a way to make this fit in the header, or engineer a way? I suppose that you might. Just thinking off the top of my head, if this was going to be drilled up into the header, you would sure need to have some sort of a way to make sure that this piece did not come out of the header. I don't think you'd ever really have any problem of it actually moving. Those margins are actually quite tight. So if you were to drill a couple of concentric holes, I could see where you could absolutely get that set in place. I suppose what you might be able to do is, in your header preparation, if you're building the frame, you might be able to approach a set screw from a side, drill a hole into here so that you can sink a set screw through your material and into this. No other ideas come to mind as to how to make that work in a header, but I'm really confident it's not going to fall out. Okay. It would probably not be best served with a round preparation in wood, which is, of course, ultimately soft. The pulling on the door, I think, would cause that to oval itself over time. And I would argue that you really need to have your top portion securely anchored to the header. So could you make that fit and work? I suppose you could. I don't think it would be advisable in a long-term scenario. The other problem, of course, with doing that is the method of installation. Now, where you're going to have to install this, you're going to be inherently dealing with an inset installation. This is going to have to be installed, with vertical axis of pivoting completely compliant with what you're doing. So what I'm driving at is your construction is going to have to permit, your pivot base to sit out at a certain distance. So the door is going to be, depending on the thickness of the door, it'll have to be at least the thickness from back here to whatever you're doing over here. It would have to be a pretty thick door. So I would argue that ultimately, unless you had a really unusual installation, and that you'd have to have a door thickness of at least 2 inch to make that concept work, you're gonna avoid getting this installed into the header altogether. Now, moving forward with a review of the PB985, it's going to be used when all you want to do is drill a round hole into the base. You don't want to have hardware. Imagine if you were going to use this as some sort of a pantry, I suppose. Well, when that door opens, your door is going to occupy the space here. you're going to have this amount of the pivot encroaching into the doorway. Okay, so if you're going to be walking through the door, that's going to be a problem. A pivot base would be really elegant because as you get that open, of course, you'll have nothing encroaching into your space at all. So for door work, where you are doing traditional swinging door work, yeah, pivot base would be great at the bottom because it would solve that problem. Because generally the floor portion is going to be, if it's door work, it'll be surface mounted. Mortising this into the bottom of a floor is probably not the right idea because you do need to have an undercut from the bottom of the door to the floor. This, of course, that lip height, and we're going to discover what that is in a moment, is going to, of course, give you, at least a proper undercut, or at least starting with an undercut. So let's take some dimensional properties of the PB985. They say that it's 1.25 inch overall length. My caliper tells me it's 1.218. 1.218. A thickness of the lip is 1/4 inch. That's where your undercut comes in. My caliper tells me 0.231. 0.231. Thickness of the diameter of the body. They have it at 0.75. We are at 0.761. 0.761. Then they've got 1.25 inch on the exposed portion for a diameter. No, forgive me. It's 1 inch. It's 0.084. 0.084 is what it actually measures out here. Okay, so that's where you're going to use it. You'll put it into a floor where all you want to do is drill a round hole, set your pivot base down. You're going to be able to get your top leaf installed into the header. You can, depending on your installation, either depending on how your door is mortised, open your door to 90 degrees, and then it can be slid, once it's mortised, slid onto the door portion of the pivot. So if this is going to be our header, okay, open at 90 degree from your perspective, a right-hand reverse, you can slide the door down over it, and then pre-drill and secure your holes. Okay, you can do that at the bottom as well, obviously. And I only have the one portion, so it'll be shown to you opposite. You could, of course, open the door like that, slide the door over your preparation, the mortise in the bottom of the door, provided you have, of course, mortised all the way to the heel edge. If you haven't, and if you've created a mortise within the door itself and not breached through the stile, well, that's okay. You're just going to loosen the set screw that's in there, and you'll be able to back those pins out. You'll be able to get your header portion installed, your pivot base installed, your two door leaves, top and bottom, screwed down, attached, installed, get the door in place, and then run your pivot studs right down into where they have to go. And that's how your installation would be. The PB985 is available in different finishes: polished brass, lifetime brass, antique brass, oil rubbed bronze, which is what this one is, satin nickel, antique nickel, painted black, polished chrome, satin chrome. So 9 finishes on this hardware. The name Deltana is synonymous with very high quality imported builders hardware. I am grateful for Deltana because they make samples available to me to review in these types of videos. They allow me to understand their product line much better, to know exactly what their strong suits are. This is not compatible with the PH35 or the PH40. It's not. The pin diameter on those two are too large to fit into this hole. That's just simply the bottom line. That's, I suppose, unfortunate, but those are noticeably smaller knife pivot hinge sets. So it could be just simply that equipment is not intended to handle the sort of potential lateral load that would occur on this. That is, that pin assembly is mechanically connected and part of a much larger base, whereas in the PH35 and PH40, they seem to be just pressure fit or press fit sort of pieces of round material that fit into the knife hinge itself. So there could be just simply an engineering difference as to why they likely go out of their way to prevent it from fitting into this. Not that you couldn't. I think the difference was only 0.010 of an inch when I measured them both. Not that you couldn't, I suppose, make that work, but they do not appear to be engineered to work together, so be mindful of that. Finally, there's a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Deltana all the Deltana products that we sell, but a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. Any questions on the Deltana PB985 pivot hinge base, and this is a brass base material, or any other Deltana product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.